Good evening and welcome. Let's take a look at the top story we are tracking for you. Speaking at the United Nations, Indian External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar has made it clear that countries sponsoring terrorism should be held accountable. He added that terrorists have been operating with impunity in both India and Afghanistan. Jaishankar said that terror groups like Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Toiba continue to have encouragement. He also pressed for a focus on threats from the Islamic State. Jaishankar chaired an ANC meeting. Remember, he is the current president of the Security Council. The Indian External Affairs Minister warned that ISIS has been expanding its footprints in South Asia. Making an indirect reference to Pakistan, Jaishankar said that some countries have been undermining the counter-terror operations.
In our own immediate neighborhood, ISIL Khorasan has become more energetic and is constantly seeking to expand its footprint. This should be taken seriously. Events unfolding in Afghanistan have naturally enhanced global concerns about their implications for both regional and international security. The heightened activities of the proscribed Haqqani network justifies this growing anxiety. Whether it is in Afghanistan or against India, groups like Lashkar-e-Toiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed continue to operate with both impunity and encouragement. In spite of the progress we have made to tighten the legal, security, financing, and other frameworks to combat terrorism, terrorists are constantly finding newer ways of motivating, resourcing, and executing acts of terror. Unfortunately, there are also some countries who seek to undermine or subvert our collective resolve to fight terrorism. That cannot be allowed to pass.
Highlighting India's achievements in peacekeeping efforts, Jaishankar laid out an 8-point plan to counter terrorism. He said the terror financing watchdog, the Financial Action Task Force, should be strengthened. Jaishankar also called for increased funding to the United Nations Office of Counter-Terrorism.
It is therefore vital that this Council does not take a selective, tactical, or even a complacent view of the problems we face. We must never countenance sanctuaries for terrorists or overlook the raising of their resources. And when we see state hospitality being extended to those with innocents' bloods on their hand, we should never lack the courage to call out this doublespeak. We heard from the briefers of the aggravating impact of the pandemic. What is true of COVID is even more true of terrorism. None of us are safe until all of us are safe.
Our correspondent Susan Haqqani is joining us live from New York for more on this. Good evening to you, Susan. Now, what were the immediate concerns that were raised on terrorism and the various groups and their footprints in the meeting, and how much of Afghanistan resonated in this?
Really, Alison, well, this was really a ministerial briefing, and it was a biannual meeting that was scheduled to be held regardless. It really came at a timely fashion, considering what's happening in Afghanistan, and a lot of the issues that were addressed was related to Afghanistan. While it started with counterterrorism and the briefing of the Secretary General's strategic level reporting on ISIL and Daesh, we did learn from this meeting that there are offsprings of ISIL and Daesh really operating in outside of Kabul. There's controls between 500 and 1,500 fighters in Afghanistan, and these figures, quote unquote, according to members and this Security Council meeting, may rise to as many as 10,000 in the medium term. Now, Council members also referred to the recent developments not only in Afghanistan, but the rise of terrorism in other parts of the world, notably in Africa, places like Burkina Faso as well, really alluding to the fact that the threat of terrorism is alive and and must be countered. An interesting point that was made also by India's External Affairs Minister was the way that terrorism has changed and evolved. The use of Bitcoin was really brought up, and how financing has evolved as well, and what measures the Security Council is going to take in that regard in individual countries in the financing of and tracking the financing of these terrorism activities. So hyper-focused on Afghanistan, yes, but also in the wider picture of how Daesh in particular is going to move forward. And how it will be countered.
Right, Susan, thank you for bringing us the latest details on that UNSC meet.
WION, now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.